Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 11. House Arrest. After returning to his room, Zhou Yu was completely exhausted, and this was only the first day of his arrival in Shaochun. The servants had brought his belongings into the room, but Zhou Yu immediately moved to pen a letter to Sun Ce instead. He ripped it up, wrote again, and after writing, tore it up again, before he tossed that entire sheet of paper into the brazier and let it burn. In the end, he only wrote a few short, simple words. Have already arrived in Shaochun, come quickly to meet. Fei flapped its way out of Yuan Shu's residence, while Zhou Yu sat at the side of the window. He was staying on the second floor of a building in a side courtyard, and from here, if he pushed open the window, he could see the entirety of Shaochun buried under the snow, tranquil and elegant. In the early morning of the next day, the Zhenji of the general of the rear's estate, Yang Hong, sent someone with a message that after Zhou Yu had breakfast, he was to go see him. Yang Hong was sharp and a cunning light shone from his eyes. As he discussed matters with the senior officers under his command, he also assigned Zhou Yu an official's position and issued him a command tally. Zhou Yu was sent to be a gonko, and his primary role was to oversee the promotions and transfers of the various officials in the city. With this, he more or less had a preliminary understanding of Yuan Shu's attitude towards himself. After the events of yesterday night, according to his essay and discussion, Yuan Shu had probably put him in the same category as his father Zhou Yi, as the morally upright, outspoken scholar type. With that, he gave him this job, where it was easiest to offend others, and hardest to be biased towards any side. Ah well, since things were already like this, then he would wait for Sun Ce here, and take this opportunity to familiarize himself with the system of officials. Zhou Yu took up his role that very day. There were 3 people in the office of records, and they usually didn't rise until the sun was high in the sky, nor did they have much to do on a day-to-day basis. When Zhou Yu was organizing the volumes of recommendations for promotions that were gathering dust, he learned that Yuan Shu appointed people wholly based on his own impression of them. This role of the officer of records was merely an official position in name. For the most part, Yang Hong, Yuan Yin, and the rest of them, through speculating on Yuan Shu's mood, would order the office of records to compose articles of accusation and send them forth. Zhou Yu was also happy to be leisurely, so he settled in here. The estate was overstaffed and moved at a cumbersome pace, but the pay was very high. Yuan Shu, however, was willing to spend the money to support his subordinates living idly here. He had also given Zhou Yu 320 stones of grain, which he had absolutely no use for, which caused Zhou Yu to feel worried. Could the entirety of the taxed rice of Yangzhou support this many people? Many days later, Fei brought back a letter. The situation in Luoyang has changed, I must stay for a while longer. The days are growing cold, take care of yourself, and as soon as I am able, I will take my leave and come to Shaochun. Bafu. Zhou Yu's forehead furrowed slightly. It seemed like Sun Ce wouldn't be able to make it over here for a while, so he could only temporarily set this matter aside. He then wrote a note on his paycheck and had someone bring it back home. After all, in Yuan Shu's residence, his own food and lodgings were taken care of. He wasn't mistreated in any way, so at least for now, he wouldn't need to touch the grain at all. A letter had come from his home as well, one that Lu Ce had penned for his mother. Everything was well at home, and the letter told him to pay attention to his conduct as he stayed in Shaochun. The letter also mentioned that the situation in Luoyang had changed, and of the allied troops, only Sun Jian's armies were left, perhaps because his achievements were so great that they threatened his superior's position. In these past few days, once in a while, Zhou Yu would glean an inkling of what was happening based on the coming and going of people and things, and the changing of appointments. He also heard people in the estate mention that Sun Jian was having his troops hold their position outside of the city of Luoyang, from beginning to end. Despite Yuan Shu sending orders to recall him several times, Sun Jian had yet to mobilize. On this day, Zhou Yu passed through the back garden to see Yuan Shu fervently discussing something with another middle-aged man. He immediately understood that these words were not meant for him to hear, so he tried to take his leave unobtrusively. But the other middle-aged man had discovered him, and he asked, "Who's there?" Zhou Yu couldn't hide any longer, so he could only cross through the corridor and enter the garden, cupping his hands and bowing to the two of them. "This is the son of Zhou Yi," Yuan Shu said, with a pleasant expression. "Come, Zhou Yu, come greet your uncle Yuan Xiao." "Young nephew greets Uncle Yuan," Zhou Yu said. Upon learning that this was Zhou Yi's son, Yuan Xiao was no longer suspicious of him. Zhou Yu saw that at Yuan Xiao's side was actually a child not yet 10 years old, who was holding his hand, lifting his head to look towards Zhou Yu. Yuan Shu said, "Come, nephew Zhou, you take this little fellow on a walk around the estate, and when the sky grows dark, bring him to the eastern gardens for his meal." Zhou Yu nodded. That child gave Zhou Yu a look, before looking back at Yuan Xiao. Zhou Yu originally thought that this was Yuan Xiao's grandson, so he reached out and took his hand. That child was pretty smart, and he followed obediently behind Zhou Yu as they crossed the corridor, taking their leave. Yuan Xiao continued to argue with Yuan Shu. "How much use can a single piece of jade be? It's not a question of if it's a jade or not." Yuan Shu was clearly angered as he replied, "The way that bastard's squirreling it away clearly shows that he's not treating us as his opponents. If we don't call him back, is he planning on forcing a coup and declaring himself as the new emperor?" When Zhou Yu heard these words, he instantly had a feeling that his soul had been shaken. "Did you hear what they were saying?" that child asked quietly. Shh, Zhou Yu hurried to shush him, before leading him through the corridor. It was only then that he said, "I'm called Zhou Yu, courtesy name Gongjin." "What's your name?" "This humble one is Cao Pi, my father is Cao Sa, courtesy name Mend," that little child replied, cupping his hands together as he greeted him ceremoniously. Zhou Yu was surprised. "Why have you come to Shaochun?" Zhou Yu was torn between laughing and crying. Now he had not only seen Cao Sa, but also his son. Though Cao Pi was still young in years, his actions and mannerisms had a very similar style to his father's, and his features were very fine. When he grew up, he would be a stunning beauty. "My dad mentioned you before," Cao Pi continued, dignified. "On behalf of my father and my family, allow me to thank Master Gongjin for saving his life. Quickly rise." Zhou Yu couldn't resist feeling amused at this. This child had such a prudent head on such young shoulders, and he couldn't help the admiration he felt. He replied earnestly, "It was a trifling matter, nothing to mention." Zhou Yu and Cao Pi walked through the corridors, coming to a secluded area. Zhou Yu thought deeply for a moment, and Cao Pi understood that he had matters weighing on his mind as he observed his expression, so he asked, "Are you worried about the issue with General Polu?" With this, Zhou Yu was reminded that perhaps Cao Pi knew something about it, so he politely mentioned, "The recent news from General Sun does not seem to be very good." "Not only is it not very good," Cao Pi smiled, shaking his head a little helplessly. "He found the imperial jade seal in Luoyang." Zhou Yu was instantly shock stiff. Cao Pi watched him anticipatorily, hoping to glean something from the emotions flashing through his gaze. But Zhou Yu was already frozen in place as he recalled the exchange between Yuan Shu and Yuan Xiao just now. A piece of jade, but not only a piece of jade. Damn it, he should have thought of this a long time ago. Yuan Xiao wants his older brother to bring Madame Sun to Shaochun, Cao Pi replied. "You're acquainted with the Sun family?" "Why, yes." Zhou Yu was originally not willing to state it too clearly to Cao Pi, but as he thought about it, he suddenly changed his mind. Why would Cao Pi be at Yuan Xiao's side? More or less, was it because he had been brought here to be a hostage? The two of them exchanged a glance, Cao Pi's filled with amusement, and Zhou Yu immediately understood, right now, the two of them were allies. This child's future was limitless, Zhou Yu thought. Has Yuan Shao discovered that you eavesdrop on his conversations? Zhou Yu asked. So P watched the dragonflies in the courtyard and reached a hand out to catch one, saying, he isn't on his guard around me at all, he treats me like a child. Zhou Yu began to chuckle, and he suddenly felt that his mood had improved greatly. Sun Ce and I are childhood friends, Zhou Yu said. This matter is not a trivial one, we have to think of a way to deal with it. So P replied, they've already sent people over to escort her, so she won't be able to escape. I'm still thinking about how to leave Shaochun. My dad said that he'll send someone to pick me up, so right now, there's a strong possibility that we won't be able to leave. Zhou Yu said, leave it to me. I'll figure out a way to send you out. What did Yuan Shao and your dad say? He sent my dad to help fight his battle for him, So P said helplessly. Right now, he has me anyways. Zhou Yu stroked So P's head, saying, you little brat, you're too cunning. From the time he heard Yuan Shu introduce Zhou Yu to Yuan Shao, So P had clearly taken note. Add on to that incident from several months ago, when Zhou Yu had sent So Sa out of Luoyang, So P had confirmed that Zhou Yu was an ally. Secretly, he revealed all of Yuan Shao's plans to Zhou Yu, so that the two of them were immediately standing on the same level. In the span of less time than it took to drink a cup of tea, to come to such a careful and complicated conclusion, Zhou Yu couldn't help but see this child in an admiring light. I must first write a letter, Zhou Yu said, worries weighing heavily on his mind. So P nodded and followed Zhou Yu back to his quarters. While Zhou Yu composed his letter, So P curiously watched Fi Yu. Though his personality was steady, in the end, he still had the heart of a child, and after playing with Fi Yu for a while, he asked, is this a falcon? Yes, Zhou Yu said. There is only this one in the entire world. So P replied, it's the Sun family patriarch's treasure, right? Taming this bird must have been very hard. Correct, Zhou Yu responded. I need to have Sun Sa come to Shaochun at lightning speed. Only then can we plan to send you out of the city without letting Yuan Shao know. My father returned unscathed all thanks to you, So P said, smiling. Now you've also saved my life once, I really don't know how I should thank you. Life and death are fated, and whether or not matters succeed is up to the heavens, Zhou Yu replied. I am doing no more than following the will of the heavens. Zhou Yu released that white falcon, which instantly shot out, vanishing into the sky. A patch of fiery clouds hung on the horizon, as if they were a long extension of the endless fires of war across the skyline itself. Twilight fell, and Zhou Yu closed the window, but he never would have thought that many years later, on an evening much like this one, Fi Yu would bring back memories of a time so long ago. How about I take you to see a great beauty, Zhou Daga? So P asked, as if he was deep in thought, after lifting his brush and penning a few lines. Zhou Yu, no need. So P, she's really a great beauty. Zhou Yu, no matter how great her beauty, I've seen greater. So P, even prettier than you. Zhou Yu almost choked on his tea, but So P continued onwards, a pity that she's already married, otherwise I would definitely marry her. How old are you? Zhou Yu responded. Leave off with that. So P replied, my dad said that every person possesses a love of beauty. Zhou Yu. That night, Zhou Yu sent So P to the eastern gardens, where the two brothers Yuan Shao and Yuan Shu were drinking and chatting. A young woman sat in the eastern gardens, her face half covered, with a gaggle of serving women surrounding her. When she turned, under the flickering light of the oil lamps, her features were clean and beautiful, to the point of bringing cities and countries to ruin. When that woman saw Zhou Yu, she hunched over slightly, before addressing So P. Where did you go? So P began to smile, and that innocent expression didn't look one whit like what he had seen earlier. Zhou Yu replied, So Gongza spent a while reading books in my quarters, but now he is back. So P introduced them. This person is Zhou Daga. Then, to Zhou Yu, this lady is Zhenji. When he brought So P over, Zhou Yu learned from others that this time, Yuan Shao had also brought his son and his daughter-in-law. His daughter-in-law was exactly this beauty in front of him called Zhenmi. Zhou Yu didn't dare to look at her for too long, but So P smiled happily. How is she? Zhou Daga. Awkwardly, Zhou Yu whispered, don't speak nonsense, or I'll be the one shouldering the blame in a bit. A few days later, Yang Hong sent someone else with a proclamation. This time, it was to gather up all of the official documents in the estate and deal with all of the documents that were related to military reports. Originally, this matter was not one that Zhou Yu should have become involved in, but amongst the documents that were to be drawn up was a letter of indictment, whose subjects were Sun Jian and his son, and they were sent in along with Sun Jian's records of provisions. Zhou Yu knew that this matter was not trivial. If they had no provisions on the front lines, then the troops could mutiny at any time, so he said to Yang Hong, Great Zhenji, the way I see it, this matter. If I tell you to write, then you write, Yang Hong said. You think Sun Wenta is really so poor that he won't have anything to eat? It's nothing more than a test, you don't even understand this. Zhou Yu put down the brush and said, a letter indicting him, I cannot write. Since the general is out in the field, there are some commands that he naturally cannot follow, so how can his troops' provisions be withheld because of this? You won't write it? Yang Hong hadn't thought that a lowly officer of the records would also dare to defy him. He looked at Zhou Yu for a while, before saying, very good, you won't write it, remember that you said this yourself. All of his colleagues in the hall turned to watch Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu was about to put his brush down and leave, but he still had qualms about Sun Sa's safety. After thinking it over, he said, I beg your pardon, my lord, I'll go write it right now. Yang Hong sent him an angry glare, before a subordinate rushed over hastily, murmuring a few words into his ear. At that, Yang Hong rose and left. It was as if a visitor had come, and he had no more time to fly into a temper at Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu thought for a moment, before he lifted the brush and started to write. He weighed the advantages and disadvantages, and understood that though writing this indictment was an order from Yang Hong, in reality it was going to be handed to Yuan Shu. How Yuan Shu was going to deal with it was something that he had decided on a long time ago, and wouldn't be changed by a simple letter of indictment. But after thinking it over, Zhou Yu still penned in the disadvantage Sun Jian would be at due to the delay of those needed provisions, in an attempt to change Yuan Shu's decision. Zhou Yu finished the letter of indictment and affixed the seal of the Office of Records on it, to show that it had been assessed. He sealed the letter and came out, only hoping that after Yang Hong returned, it would be too late for him to open the letter, and with that, he left the meeting hall. Snow was falling heavily outside this night, and a horse carriage arrived from outside the estate. Zhou Yu jolted at that, and he dimly felt uneasy. He wanted to follow the horse carriage to see what was going on, but Yang Hong came towards him from the other side with orders. Zhou Gongjin, take that letter of indictment with you and come with me. Yang Hong didn't have time to open the letter. As soon as Zhou Yu looked at him, he knew that his actions previously had offended Yang Hong, and now he wanted to bring both him and the letter to see Yuan Shu, clearly to drive him into a corner. Thankfully, Zhou Yu had taken precautions, and he hadn't mentioned Sun Jian's activities at all. If he was to see Yuan Shu, he would also be able to explain it, so he had no fear for what Yang Hong was going to do, following him into the main hall. The lights in the hall were dim as Yuan Shu and Yuan Shao sat there drinking wine. Yang Hong first bowed, before saying, "Greetings to Zigong, greetings to Lord Yuan." Zhou Yu followed suit, saying, "Greetings to Zigong." Yang Hong shot Zhou Yu a glance. The Office of Records has already investigated, Sun Jian is indeed disloyal, and he often says to his subordinates that since the imperial jade seal is already his, then one day in the future, he will undoubtedly be the one with the greatest treasure. Though Zhou Yu's heart thrummed with fear, his expression did not belie even a bit of that as he offered the indictment to Yuan Shu. Yuan Shu let out an angry huff, already bearing the intent to kill in mind, as he replied, "In your opinion, how should this matter be dealt with?" Yang Hong replied, "Call him back. If he does not return, this matter no longer needs discussion. What if he is willing to gather up his troops and return?" Yuan Shao asked. "You need to think about how to deal with him then. His wife and son are both here," Yang Hong replied. "Just say that this is to pick up the father and son so that the entire family can reunite for the new year, and he cannot help but come. Since things are what they are," Yuan Shu ordered, not even sparing a glance at the letter on the table, "then you take care of it, ba." Zhou Yu said, "Zigong, this one has some words, but he does not know if he should say them." Yuan Shu, Yuan Shao, and Yang Hong all looked towards Zhou Yu. "If this one may speak directly," Zhou Yu said, "Sun Jian is a person that does have a lot to explain, but Sun Jian's men, if they are not issued provisions, will naturally scatter. If the troop situation does change, and the Changsha army manages to escape blame, that will be even more costly for Zigong than the current state of affairs. Since Zigong already has a method of resolving it," Zhou Yu continued tactfully, "why not continue to send out the provisions and keep his troops there, making it easier in the future for someone else to go and assume command? With this, even if they want to rebel, they won't be able to find a reason." Yuan Shu was clearly unwilling, but Yuan Shao stepped in. "You have a good point. Dealing with this kind of thing requires both kindness and cruelty, offering kindness to the Changsha troops on one hand, while with the other, cowing the Sun family's father and son. You are correct in your words. Then it will be how you say." Yuan Shu was a little unwilling, but he had no choice but to accept Zhou Yu's reasonable proposal. Zhou Yu then took his leave. The matter of the provisions was left to Yang Hong to deal with. It wasn't something he was to worry over, and if he asked any more, he would be overstepping his bounds. He strode rapidly back to his quarters just as Fei Yu returned, bringing Sun Sa's letter. Sun Sa's letter mentioned that he also knew that it was not proper to hide away the imperial jade seal, but he had no way to persuade Sun Jian. He was afraid that Yuan Shu had already started to grow suspicious, so he asked Zhou Yu to help him keep things under control. Zhou Yu smiled, a little helplessly and a little bitterly at that. Then he immediately burned the letter before penning another for Fei Yu to bring back. But Sopi, his chin cupped in his hand, watched him from the corridor outside of the front door. He said, "I saw that Sun Jian's wife and son were brought here. Was the horse carriage their families?" Zhou Yu asked, without even lifting his head. Sopi ned, before saying, "Is Yuan Shu going to call him back, and then find an opportunity to kill him?" Zhou Yu lifted his gaze to watch Sopi, without uttering a word. Sopi walked in, slumping over Zhou Yu's shoulders, reading the letter that he wrote. Then he asked, "What are you planning to do?" Originally, Zhou Yu hadn't wanted for him to know too much, but he had had a sudden change of heart. He figured that since everyone was on the same boat now, letting him know was not a big problem. "General Sun Wente cannot return," Zhou Yu replied. "Only if he keeps his troops out in the field and gets the provisions will Yuan Shu not dare to touch his family." "Wu," Sopi said. "That makes sense. If I were Yuan Shu, I wouldn't use such a dumb method." Zhou Yu replied, "So thankfully you aren't Yuan Shu, otherwise things would be troublesome." Sopi began to chuckle. Zhou Yu continued, "Madam Sun and her child have both been put under house arrest." Sopi replied, "Zhenji is keeping her company, and there's also a little child called Sun Quan who caught a chill as soon as he came. Zhenji won't let me see him, so now I'm really bored." Zhou Yu said, "Take me there to take a look." Zhou Yu then clearly detailed out the changes in Shaochun, before letting Fei Yu fly off. These days, he and Sun Sa rarely saw each other and parted often, so Zhou Yu couldn't help the anxiety that filled him. Sun Jian stubbornly refused to hand over the jade seal, and Zhou Yu was afraid that it was already too late for the situation to be reversed. The only thing he could do was to weigh the advantages and disadvantages of each choice, and tell Sun Jian that no matter what he did, to never set foot in Shaochun. Otherwise, the entire Sun family would fall into the trap, and every single member would be killed, allowing Yuan Shu to completely get rid of them. End chapter. Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 12. Zigong. Zhou Yu's forehead was furrowed deeply as he followed So Pi into the eastern gardens, where he saw Zhenmi in the midst of chatting with a middle-aged noble lady. "You are Zhou Yu." That madam immediately began to smile. Zhou Yu was stunned. "You recognize me? It's as if you aren't the son of old Lord Zhou." That noble lady was indeed Sun Jian's wife, and Sun Sa and Sun Quan's birth mother, the Lady of Wu. She came forward and took Zhou Yu's hand, smiling as she did so. "I saw you when you were small, Aya, you've grown so tall now. Every time Sa'ir is at home, he never stops talking about you, but I never expected that I would see you here." A hint of worry appeared on Zhou Yu's forehead, even as he said, "Greetings to Madame Sun." "You can just call me Aunt," Madame Wu replied. Zhou Yu nodded, but just as he was about to open his mouth, he was reminded that Zhenmi was to the side, and he didn't dare to say too much. As soon as Madame Wu saw that, she understood as well, so Zhou Yu found an excuse and asked, "Where's Didi?" "Didi is currently ill," Madame Wu said. "You go take a look at him, Ba, I'll be there in just a bit." A serving girl came by and let Zhou Yu into the back courtyard of the eastern gardens. The Madame of Wu's expression stayed as normal, and she smiled mildly as she and Zhenmi chatted idly. In the rooms of the back courtyard, a small child lay there, his face flushed red. He was about the same age as Cao Pi, and his forehead was burning as he lay there, feverish. "A chill that has invaded his body," Zhou Yu declared. It was the same illness that he himself had caught on his journey previously. So Pi slumped at the side of the bed, and now he gave Zhou Yu a glance, saying, "You're too amazing, you even know how to diagnose someone's illness. All you need to do is flip his eyelids up, and you know what illness he has." Before Zhou Yu had embarked on his journey, Lu Su had specially wrapped 4 bundles of medicine for him, which were prepared for him to take on the journey. However, Zhou Yu's physique had always been good, and he had never touched them. "Now," he said to So Pi, "go into my room and bring those bundles of medicine up on the very top of the shelves there." And saying this, Zhou Yu stroked Sun Quan's head again, saying, "It's okay, after you take the medicine, you'll get better." Sun Quan laid on the bed, panting for breath, his lips bright red. Zhou Yu thought that he must have been blown about by the wind on the way here, and when little kids got sick, the adults around them always found that looking at them tugged at their heartstrings. Soon, So Pi returned with the medicine, and Zhou Yu stewed it in the room, exchanging the medicine that Yuan Shu's subordinate had concocted for Sun Quan for the mute monks. That same night, he poured it down Sun Quan's throat. The Lady of Wu came to check on him once, so Zhou Yu spoke of the current situation to her whilst inside the room. The lady's face was grave, and upon hearing the news, she didn't say a single word. Finally, in the end, she asked, "You heir, as of right now, do you have a way to leave the city?" "I had Fiyu take a letter," Zhou Yu reported. "These days, I must still stay in Shaochun, to prevent any mishaps." "Then, that's all right," the Lady of Wu sighed. "This father and son's explosive tempers. All right, I know now. Fiyu flies faster than a human can travel, so it will definitely be able to catch up." Zhou Yu's heart was also heavy with worry. He had to take care of Sun Quan, but also had to worry about when Yuan Shu would make his move. The only thing he was afraid of was for Fiyu to not make it in time, which would result in a bloodbath. So Pi patted Zhou Yu's shoulder, saying, "Relax, everything will be all right." Zhou Yu began to smile. So Pi continued, Do you know how to treat migraines? Zhou Yu replied, I don't. Why? My medical skills are limited to common illnesses and external wounds. So P was at a loss for what to do. He thought for a moment, before saying, my dad gets very bad migraines. After thinking for a bit, Zhou Yu said, I heard that there is a famous doctor wandering the world, named Hua Tuo. If you can find him, then perhaps there is a way. So P then asked, when are you escorting me out? Zhou Yu replied, patience. I must find helpers first before I can send you out of the city, Toy our dad's side. So P asked, is that helper soon saw? Zhou Yu didn't respond. So P commented, it looks like his own life is hard to keep, is he actually able to escort me out? If not, then I'll have to think of other ways. What method do you have? Zhou Yu was already familiar with Cao Pi, and as they chatted, he had never minded the difference in their ages. He scoffed, you think you can walk back on your own into your dad's camp? You probably can't even figure out where he is bought. So Pi sighed. The affairs of the mortal world, both joyous and sorrowful, are like the dew of the morning, vanishing under the sun, and the years that have passed have been painful, a pity, a pity. Zhou Yu. Who taught you this stuff? My dad. Feeling as if he had lost to So Pi, Zhou Yu said, wait for a little while longer, there will definitely be a way. We cannot act hastily. So Pi nodded, indicating that he understood. It was just at this time that Sun Quan woke. Big brother, Sun Quan panted, trying to rise. Zhou Yu hurriedly pressed on his little shoulders, making him lie back down again. Have you sent a letter to my brother? Sun Quan asked. Zhou Yu knew that the words they had just spoken, Sun Quan had probably heard, so he comforted him, Fiyu has left. Fiyu's faster than a human, your mother said so. It was only then that Sun Quan nodded and said, thank you. Zhou Yu saw that even while Sun Quan was ill, his forehead was still furrowed, and he figured that he wasn't very comfortable with this either. He thought to himself, how come all these kids now have such old souls? The night passed, and when dawn broke, Sun Quan's illness was already somewhat better. His forehead was no longer hot, and it was only then that Zhou Yu returned to his room to sleep. For several days, they received no news at all, and Fiyu didn't return either, causing his worries to grow. He didn't dare to get too close to the Lady of Wu. One day, when he saw that there was no one in the war chamber, he took the risk and went in. He moved to flip through the military reports on the advisor's desk, only to find that Yang Hong was still bearing a grudge, because those provisions were still being held and had yet to be sent out. With that, Zhou Yu bolstered his courage, copied Yang Hong in approving the documents, before stuffing them into the very bottom of the stack to be sent out. After placing them, Zhou Yu was suddenly bathed in cold sweat. He strode out rapidly, but he ran into someone in the corridor. This little brother, may I ask? That person began politely, but when the two of them saw each other, both of them froze. Zhou Yu, Zilong. Zhao Yun, Gongjin. Zhou Yu, how come you're? Zhao Yun replied, Zigong sent me here to bring a letter to General Yuan. Today, I waited for an entire day, but he was busy discussing matters, so he was unable to meet with me. Zhou Yu immediately had an idea, and he asked, did you come alone? With General Sun's son, Bafu, Zhao Yun replied. He is currently meeting with General Yuan in the hall. Zhou Yu and Zhao Yun waited under the eaves of the corridor. A second later, Fiyu flew down from the rooftop, landing on Zhou Yu's shoulder. From within the hall came the sound of Yuan Shu's infuriated shouting, along with the sound of a cup shattering. Clearly, he was currently venting out a torrent of anger on Sun Sa and his dad. Zhou Yu sucked in a deep breath. It looked like that was not going to be resolved anytime soon, so he said to Zhao Yun, Zilongxiang, can you help me out with something? Zhao Yun replied, please, Speak freely without fear of consequence. When Zhou Yu saw Zhao Yun, he had an idea. If he was to find a helper, Zhao Yun was clearly the best there was, because no one would even suspect him. Let me take you to see a young friend. Zhou Yu decided to first take care of Cao Pi's matter. Sun Sa had come, which meant that he had already received the letter. Sun Jian hadn't come, which meant that matters were still within their control. With that, Zhao Yun followed Zhou Yu through the back courtyard, into the flower gardens, and the scene that played out in front of their eyes was two kids rolling around in the mud, squirming and wrestling. You were raised by a say uncle. Zhou Yu shouted, both of you, stop. The two rushed forward, each of them grabbing a child and separating them. Zhao Yun grabbed Sopi, while Zhou Yu pulled Sun Quan to him. The two kids' faces were still bright red with exertion, and Zhou Yu was at his wits' end for how to deal with them. This young friend, Zhou Yu said to Zhao Yun, I'll hand him over to you now, you two get familiar with each other. Zhao Yun replied, what matter caused you to get into such a fight? How can you use your fists without even exchanging some words first? Come with me. What are you going to do? Sopi struggled, refusing to listen to him. Zhao Yun replied, I'm going to teach you a lesson. Zhou Yu gave Sopi a glance. When their gazes met, Sopi guessed dimly that Zhao Yun was that helper that Zhou Yu had invited over. He didn't fight anymore, and went with Zhao Yun to wash his face. On his end, Zhou Yu brought Sun Quan inside and handed him over to the Lady of Wu. When he came out again and returned to the room, he saw that there was someone standing in the flower garden, who, without saying a single word, leapt towards him, gripping him tightly in a mutual embrace. In that instant, Zhou Yu's vision almost turned black, and he said, thank the heavens and the earth, you have finally come. Thankfully I got your letter, Sun Sa said. My dad was about to mobilize and come over. Zhou Yu asked, on the verge of gritting his teeth and spitting his question out, what exactly were you two having a spat over? Sun Sa then said, the jade seal is on me, but I didn't hand it over to him. At that moment, Zhou Yu froze. A citizen is not guilty of his own accord, but if he carries the jade, then he will be found guilty. You must immediately turn in the jade seal. You're joking, ba? How long have I been waiting for you here? Who's joking with you? At this time, no one should have come back, things would have been fine if you hadn't come back. Yuan Shu has long since hated your Sun family to his very core. My dad had me come exactly to completely resolve this matter. The Imperial Jade Seal, I will not hand over to him. That way, I can guarantee that he won't be able to get it, so it'll be easy to completely resolve. What a joke. You think Yuan Shu will listen to you? If he catches you, won't he search you? Zhou Gongjin, I thought you would say something else, can't you say some nice words? Here I was, all worried about you, who do you think you are? You, stop. Zhou Gongjin. You treat the person who saved your life just like this. You guys, stop fighting. Sun Quan shouted. I'm going to get mother. Zhou Yu twisted his hands around Sun Sa's lapels, pushing him up against a pillar. Gritting his teeth, he said, do you know how dangerous your Sun family's situation is? You shut up. Sun Sa roared, flying into a great rage. You're going against me now, are you? Zhou Yu. Sun Sa harshly pushed Zhou Yu aside. Upon seeing that things were not going well, Sun Quan turned and ran. Zhou Yu and Sun Sa began to pummel each other in the garden, but Sun Sa, upon realizing that he shouldn't fight Zhou Yu, roared, you're insane. I'm not fighting anymore. Zhou Yu dragged Sun Sa up a few times, trying to get him to stand up, but Sun Sa only kept dragging himself down. In the end, Zhou Yu couldn't hold it in any longer, and he yanked Sun Sa's belt, giving him a kick from behind. With a hwala, Sun Sa fell into the pond, splashing about a few times, looking bedraggled beyond belief as he rose. He shouted, infuriated, "Now I see, you've come to get revenge." Zhou Yu didn't speak. He only stood on the banks, watching him. That scene startled quite a few onlookers, and even the lady of Wu had come. From a distance, she scolded Sun Sa, "Sa air. What are you doing?" Zhou Yu stood by the side of the pond, watching Sun Sa, but he didn't reach a hand out. Sun Sa groped around in his robes for a bit, feeling that something was off. However, Zhou Yu's eyebrows rose slightly, and it was only then that Sun Sa understood. Zhou Yu reached out a hand and tugged Sun Sa out of the water. Sun Sa turned his head back and glanced at the pond, but he didn't say anything more. One shishan later, incense had been lit in Zhou Yu's room and the light smoke wafted into the air. Zhou Yu sat at the desk, reading a book, while Sun Sa soaked in the bathtub. He let out a sigh of much exhaustion. "No need to wait on us any longer," Zhou Yu said to the serving women outside the room. "Yes, Lord Officer of the Records." As the serving women left, they shut the doors, and it was only then that Zhou Yu put down his book and came over to wipe Sun Sa's back. Sun Sa's sculpted, powerful back was exposed above the bathtub, and his youthful muscles were well defined, his hair soaking wet. Zhou Yu asked, "Since you've come back this time, how long are you preparing to stay in Shaochun?" Sun Sa replied lazily, "I'm leaving after we celebrate the 15th of the first month, father had me." Since it was winter, steam rose off the hot water, and on Sun Sa's nape and back were collected water droplets and sweat. Zhou Yu dipped his finger in the water and wrote down 4 words along Sun Sa's naked shoulder, "The walls have ears." He continued, "Come here to have the matter of the soldiers of Changsha being sent out to besiege Chang'an after the new year be approved." Zhou Yu responded mildly. "Then rest well these coming few days ba." Sun Sa raised his eyes to look at the eaves of the roof, where the corner of someone's robe flashed past. He then moved his hand so it was resting in front of him, while Zhou Yu squeezed out the green juice of the honey locust leaves to wipe his back with. Sun Sa gave the back of Zhou Yu's hand a gentle pat, indicating that he could rest easy. There was the sound of water, and Zhou Yu rolled up his sleeves again, taking a seat in the corridor outside as he scrubbed away the mud on Sun Sa's martial boots. With a hwala, Sun Sa got out of the water, standing completely nude in the doorway. Zhou Yu roared, infuriated, "Go put your clothes on." Zhou Yu rose and rolled his sleeves up to beat up Sun Sa, but Sun Sa quickly and agilely nabbed his robe, shrugged it on with a few quick motions, and ran. That night, Sun Sa first let Zhou Yu to go pay their respects to the Lady of Wu, as a formal greeting. Zhou Yu knew that Yuan Shu was definitely suspicious of him. For him to end up fighting viciously with Sun Sa as soon as he had returned was as good as telling Yuan Shu he answered to the Sun family. This was equivalent to trapping himself on the Sun family's boat, but there was also some benefit to it. It also acted as a slight warning. No matter what, the Sun family father and son still had someone in Great General Yuan Shu's manner to carry out tasks for them. No matter what means Yuan Shu would use to deal with Sun Sa, those means could not be too brazen. The topics of conversation between Sun Sa, his mother, and his little brother Sun Quan was limited to how the winter chill had set in, how Sun Sa's body was, how much he ate usually, if he was in any trouble, and such trifling matters, as well as various affairs, both large and small, that had any relation to the troops. As for anything regarding the Jade Seal or Yuan Shu, none of them brought it up. At this moment, the Jade Seal had already been submerged in the pond outside the small side courtyard that was the residence of Madame Sun. Since Zhou Yu had pulled it off in such a concealed fashion, no one knew. In the depths of the night, Sun Sa and Zhou Yu passed through the corridor to return to their rooms. Their wooden clogs made quiet sounds on the hallway floor. A crescent moon appeared over the distant mountains, and Sun Sa could sense that everywhere around were hidden eyes watching them. "After the Shangyuan festival is over, let's leave together ba," Sun Sa said earnestly. "Go where?" Zhou Yu asked. Changsha. Sun Sa thought for a moment, before responding, Wu Jun. Zhou Yu remarked, I feel, however, that Xiao Chun's pretty good. With a grin, Sun Sa lifted Zhou Yu in an embrace. Zhou Yu protested, put me down quickly, what do you think this looks like? One tall, sturdy man hugging another, running through the corridor, Zhou Yu was completely torn between laughter and crying. Sun Sa then said, do you know how our Changsha army drafts strong men for military service? Well, it can't be helped, you didn't go. First it's like this, then they truss you up, and toss you onto the back of the horse. Let go. Sun Bafu. Zhou Yu shouted, enraged. Just as Sun Sa was getting into teasing him, they heard sounds from the corridor as several people walked over. The two of them hurried to separate themselves. The person in front was carrying a lantern, which lit up a little less than half of the corridor. Zigong. Zhou Yu hurried to make his greeting. Wu. Yuan Shu's face was impassive. When Sun Sa raised his eyes to look, he saw that quite a few people had come, Yuan Shu, Yuan Xiao, Yang Hong, and several advisors and generals under Yuan Shu's command. They were all standing in the corridor. Uncle, Sun Sa greeted him. Yuan Xiao smiled. You two actually have such a good relationship, he. Please excuse our behavior, Zhou Yu replied mildly. My father and Uncle Sun were acquainted previously. Yuan Shu merely made a grunt of acknowledgement. Smiling in a manner that didn't reach his eyes, he said, it is getting late, rest early ba. Zhou Yu ed, waiting for the group to pass. When Yuan Shu brushed by his shoulder, he said, starting tomorrow, you no longer need to go to the office of the records. Once spring comes, there will be a new post for you. Young man, you'd best work hard. Yes sir, Zhou Yu replied. His shoulder was patted by Yuan Shu, when suddenly he felt a wave of murderous intent. When he straightened up, he saw that they were all staring at him. Yuan Shu was not even willing to waste words on Sun Sa and left on his own. Sun Sa's mouth twitched, clearly, someone had offered up an opinion on him behind his back, and Sun Sa's expression flickered as he dragged Zhou Yu back into his rooms. After they returned to their rooms, there was another light sound that came from the roof. Neither of them raised their heads, and Sun Sa, acting as if there was nothing wrong, sat down smiling on the bed. He kicked off his wooden clogs, crossed his legs, and moved to boil some water for tea as he said, the general's estate would never deprive you of food, so whatever tasty food you have, offer it up now. Zhou Yu casually pointed under the bed, saying, there are tea cakes in the box. Sun Sa glanced, only to see that the box had been disturbed. Before they had left, he had personally witnessed Zhou Yu making a mark on it, and after observing their surroundings, it was clear that the entire room had been searched through. He thought back to how Yuan Shu and Yuan Xiao had run into them earlier, and understood that it was probably them who had sent people to search, but still weren't convinced, so they came in person to watch them. Sun Sa's expression was not very pleasant, but Zhou Yu smiled slightly. Straightening his sleeves, he sat down, lifting the boiling hot water and steeping tea for Sun Sa. You're unhappy now. Zhou Yu's eyebrows twitched. Just now, what did you call him? Sun Sa's expression was one of displeasure, and Zhou Yu didn't know what small grievance he was hung up on now. Zhou Yu replied, I don't remember what I addressed him as, how about I call you Zigong? Sun Sa shook his head, a little helplessly, and the two of them stared at the teapot in silence. After drinking the tea, Zhou Yu let out a yawn and he said, I'll leave you to your own devices, I'm sleepy. Sun Sa suggested, let's sleep together ba. End chapter.